Well, welcome back, art heads. It's me, James Calm. We're on Bushwick, and I'm noticing they've got a, well, I guess you'd call it a garage band, but it's playing on the roof of the garage out here in Bushwick. We're gonna go up and check out the Raccoon Fighters.
A neon reflector too. 15 minutes ain't got now, yeah.
I'm gonna go up to the Stout projects. Okay. Well, we found it. This is actually a three-person show titled OCCO, and it features the work of Rebecca Murtaugh. She's the sculptor, Matthew Neil Garrick, and Paul Benka. Who is this cat? Rebecca is the sculptor, and we'll take a quick run around and look at some of her pieces. She's married to Matthew, and I saw some of her work at the apartment, and I was wondering about her ideas about the texture and how the texture kind of reads with the color. So we've snagged Roberta Murtaugh, and you're the sculptor. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the work? I've already looked at these two. Can we go look at this the table of some of the smaller pieces? How about giving us some titles?
Sure. I have a series of pieces that are what I call the aperture series. That have
Apertures, okay.
These are apertures where you can see through them like a lens or some kind of frame. And the idea is to be able to shift the perception of the viewer from the side to be aligned, to be more.
You're gonna have to yell because everybody's screaming in here.
So the idea that when you see it from the side, it's a line, but when you come to the front, it becomes a lens or a frame.
You know, one of the things that I was very interested in was your ideas about color and texture.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I want the texture to be enticing to potentially the touch, which we're not supposed to do. So there's an idea where people want to touch it, but I think visually I want the audience to be able to think about what they're looking at and question it as an art object or as an object that's just something that's inquisitive in the world. So this idea of like the wonder is important to me.
And how about the idea of painted sculpture? I mean, do you see these as painted sculpture or sculptured paintings that have sort of gone into three dimensions? How do you look at that?
Both.
You look at it both, okay. That's a nice way to weasel out of the question.
I spent a lot of time with painters, and I think that I identify as a sculptor because I'm interested in real space. So I distinguish myself from a painter in that I'm interested in real space. So I'm interested in the dialogue within painting, and I'm interested in them identifying both ways, but when it comes down to it, I see myself more as a sculptor because I'm interested in real space versus planar space.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so we've snagged one of the other artists here. This is Paul Benka, right? Benke. And well, we'll sort of sweep over some of these. These are a little smaller. Tell us a little bit about the paintings. Is this oil?
No, it's acrylic.
It's acrylic?
Acrylic, yeah. I made these three when I did the residency at Golden Paint.
Okay.
And so I have all the intensity of color and everything to thank for them, to thank them for.
Well, I'm looking at this, you got a very nice surface on there, and almost has the quality of a nice oil enamel kind of thing.
I like the contrast of well, you know, even in the acrylics, depending on the color you use,
Sure.
there are some flatter surfaces and
That's
some,
right.
more high gloss.
They have different secretive qualities.
And I like that combined in one piece. You know, I like those contrasts. And these are I never start out with a image in mind. I do a lot of putting marks down and scraping paint over the top, putting more marks down, scraping more over, until I start to see a form that I kind of gravitate towards and want to capitalize on.
Well, one of the things that I always enjoy about the work of yours that I've seen is that, I mean, for my money, I think you've got a very wonderful, very tasty color sense. You know, a lot of people these days are sort of playing down the color and going into more almost monochrome or the kind of the gray tones. You never do that. You stick with the nice juicy colors and use a lot of magentas and oranges and pistachio greens. Where do you get your ideas for your color combinations?
Well, a lot of it comes from either comics or graphic design, like Saul Bass,
Sure.
people like that, you know. Comic book like Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, those kind of comic artists, you know. And I've always enjoyed those.
How about fine artists? I know you have a blog and you look at a lot of fine art. Anybody that sort of you borrow a little here and there from?
Of course, the German expressionists and the Fauves, but also my heroes in school, my painting heroes were the British abstractionists, John Hoyland,
Richard Smith and those guys?
yeah, a little bit, yeah. Even Roger Hilton, Albert Irvin.
Sure.
You know, those kind of Gillian Ayres, the St. Ives School. You know.
How about some of the California artists like Diebenkorn, those guys?
Diebenkorn, it's funny you mentioned that. Lately I've been looking at a lot of those guys like Billy Al Bingston.
Sure.
And just, you know, the whole Ferris group, you know.
I love those guys.
John Altoon, people like that.
Sure.
You know. I've been looking at a lot of East Indian roadside icons, religious
Sure,
icons,
yeah.
and things like that. So
That's
it's
great.
all in there somewhere, you know.
All right. Okay, thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks.
And last but not least, we're going to talk to this guy, Matthew Neil Garrick. That's James Calm, please. And Matthew's got, and you were saying this is a very fresh group of paintings that you've put up here on the wall.
It is. This is my most recent work.
So that's what, the last 6 months?
The last 6 months, yeah. Much of it from the summer and just after.
Well, one of the things I noticed was that on some of these you've got kind of a pearlescent or a metallic background on some of these.
Yeah,
Is that new?
it's new. I've made just only a few paintings. There's a mica in the ground, so it's sort of a silver reflective surface.
Now, is that oil, enamel? What kind of paint is that? The metallic.
The metallic is a urethane stain.
The urethane stain.
Yeah, and the rest is oil or oil stick.
Now, this is kind of a big change for you, I know, because the last group of work that I saw, you're dealing with more geometric shapes, a lot of squares and rectangles.
It is.
And something happened. You went squiggly.
Yeah, well, I rediscovered line a few years ago, and it has continued to loosen up.
Let's go down here and look at some of these. So when you say you've discovered line, a lot of these lines get to be pretty thick. You know, like
They do.
3 or 4 inches. And you still look at that, it's like a stroke that's 4, 5, 6 inches thick. You still look at that as a line.
In some cases, in most cases, I hope a lot of the times they operate as lines and areas. I hope that surfaces in the painting or doing two things at once in some way.
And is the idea of like the motion, you know, because I can't help but look at these and sort of think about sliding that paintbrush over the canvas. Is that part of the kind of the way you think when you're putting the paintings together?
Yeah, they're very much about action. They probably occur a lot more slowly than they seem like they do. I think they're a result of trying to find a balance in between cognition and intuition. I'm really trying to be as open as possible in the process of making the work.
Do you actually have to kind of rehearse the lines? I mean, do you kind of work on, you know, because I'm looking at this yellow stroke here and I'm thinking, you know, that doesn't just happen. There's a lot of kind of thought preparation, something going in there. Or maybe you live a charmed life, you can just pull those things out all the time.
No, I just scrape a lot of surfaces down. Do it again. This painting, for example, has a lot more paint on it. There's a lot of layers.
Yeah, no, I like this.
This probably took a lot longer to resolve than the one we were just looking at.
And this one, you've actually gone in and scraped in the lines on some of this underpainting here.
Right. Scraping, wiping, rubbing into the stained surface, working back into those surfaces.
I got one more question for you. Tell me about this title, OCCO.
Well,
Is that something from like Soupy Sales or The Simpsons or something?
how? I wish I could speak a little bit more intelligently about it. I know it's a description of one artist's work by another.
Okay.
It's a title that Paul is fond of. I don't remember the painters that were involved in the conversation, but it really is about color with punch.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If there was one thing that kind of combines all the works here, it's that everybody is into the punchy colors.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Matthew.
Thanks, James.
Congratulations.
Cheers.
It's been James Combe reporting on OCCO, group show featuring Rebecca Murtaugh, Matthew Neil Garrick, and Paul Benke here at the Stout Projects, 55 Meadow Street in Bushwick. Thank you, Kate.
She's not dead.